Welcome to Confession Stories, a place for sharing compelling stories full of surprising twists, powerful emotions, and hidden facts. These stories elicit emotions, spark thinking, and on occasion change our perspective on the world. Today I'd like to share my own story. This issue continues to concern and torment me. When I talk about it, I refer to myself as Lily, my stepmother who is about to be 40. This is the narrative of how my life was, once full of hope and promises. It spiraled into a nightmare I never saw coming. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue bringing you more fascinating, true stories like this one. And don't forget to watch this video till the end and like the video, because the story is gonna be incredibly interesting. Please hit the like button to show your support. It all started so innocently and normally, just like any other day in my life. I was happily married to Carter. I was the new woman in their lives, and I understood the importance of giving them space and letting them adjust to the changes in their family or relationship, which was inherently dynamic. Carter and I had been together for a while, but it wasn't always easy to find the right balance. That afternoon, Carter was away on a business trip, leaving me and his two sons at home. But I didn't think anything was out of the ordinary. Indeed, I experienced an unusual tranquility while standing in the kitchen preparing dinner, with the only sounds permeating the room being the clattering of cutlery as I diced vegetables and the simmering of the stew-pot on the stove. The house was tranquil and serene, instilling in me an unusual sense of solace in the isolation. The silence was nearly overwhelming, and I absorbed the warm, robust aroma of the stew, anticipating a delightful meal for everyone upon their return. Suddenly I heard rapid footsteps from upstairs. Before I could turn around, Joseph rushed through the kitchen door, his face ashen and his eyes filled with terror. "Mother, please come up here immediately. Michael is on the edge of death." His voice was urgent and sorrowful. I got a chill when I heard those words. I was unconcerned about the scenario. My heart raced as the words echoed in my thoughts. "What do you mean? What is the current status with Michael? Did he have an accident? Is he unwell?" Questions flooded my mind. My heartbeat quickened and I had no time to think. Without hesitation, I abandoned all of my stuff including my knife and cutting board, and chased Daniel. We ascended quickly, almost in a daze, my legs forcing me up the steps, my heart hammering in my breast. Joseph advanced, his face serious with anxiety, his stride quick and resonant. I strained to breathe as anxiousness and uncertainty clouded my thinking. When I arrived at Michael's room, I wasn't sure what to expect. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when the door opened. Michael stood in the midst of the room, completely nude, his slim form, illuminated by the gentle light filtering through the window, did not exhibit a smile of happiness or relief. His look lacked agony or terror. Rather, his smile had a disconcerting, almost demonic quality. I stood motionless, incapable of comprehending what I was witnessing. A spectacle that rendered my heart frozen, caused my breath to falter, and immobilized my body, incapable of comprehension. "Michael, what is your current activity?" I stammered, my voice quivering in bewilderment. I attempted to avert my gaze, yet the image seemed inly inscribed in L. Etched in my memory, a portion of me wants to scream, to flee, to engage in any action, yet my body remains unresponsive. Before I could formulate my ideas, Christopher swiftly traversed the room, teased my hand, and drew me inside. His actions were assertive and intentional. Christopher ceased. I attempted to withdraw, but it felt as if my body was immobilized, and his grasp was excessively powerful. The door clicked shut and the door closed behind me, prompting a panicked turn. Joseph blocked the doorway with his gaze, reflecting a blend of perplexity and a more sinister emotion that instills discomfort in me. He appeared to be conflicted between an incomprehensible matter and a far more distressing one. "Daniel, are you at the door? What is happening? What is the cause of your execution?" I tried to retain my calm, but my voice quivered with dread. I wanted to scream for answers, but I was overcome by the suffocating weight of uncertainty. As I prepared to take charge of the situation, an unexpected weight dropped on my shoulders from behind. Joseph came close, his breath soft over my ear, his hands tenderly clasping my shoulders. But there was a force within them that caused a chill down my spine, as he murmured, "Stepmom, we cannot bear to see you with Carter." His voice was low and scratchy, resembling a confession. It was as if the universe had ceased its rotation, leaving me immobilized and unable to grasp the significance of his remarks. "What is the subject of your discussion?" "I do not comprehend," I stammered, attempting to turn and confront him. But his grip constricted, immobilizing me. His gaze remained fixed on me, void of uncertainty or remorse, exuding an unusual sense of resolve at that time. Christopher advanced towards us gradually, as if sobbing within. But my body stayed still. The youngsters I had previously fostered, those I had attempted to protect, were now against me. I tried to free myself from their grip, but I stayed and smeared at Michael, who had positioned himself in front of me, Joseph behind me, and to walls confining my space. I found myself with no way out, as panic coursed through my body, making it increasingly difficult for me to let go. Attempted to yell, but my voice wavered. Feeble and quavering, it seemed as if my voice had forsaken me, rendering me impotent. Christopher displayed a subtle, cunning smile that elicited a shudder along my spine. "Mother, do not attempt to resist," he stated, his voice gentle yet imbued with undeniable authority. "We do not wish to harm you. We merely want you to understand your significance to us." The words lingered in the atmosphere, oppressive and stifling what had transpired. I gradually deteriorated, experiencing an internal fight marked by great guilt and humiliation. When I put on a foreign outfit, I felt an inside tempest and an uncontrollable whirlwind. I had spontaneous body reactions that made me fearful. I was conscious that the situation was incorrect. I realized that it had crossed all lines, but I couldn't stop it, couldn't avoid it. With each passing second, I felt myself plunging further into the turmoil, losing more and more of myself. The values I previously held so dear were slipping through my fingers, and I was no longer the person I used to be. I no longer had control. I'd become a pawn in their game, a plaything for their fantasies. The days that followed were like a haze. Every morning I woke up next to Carter, his calm face a sharp contrast to the agony that raged within me. His warmth, his confidence in all I had valued in our life together, suddenly felt like a cruel joke. I felt caught in an endless loop of shame and terror, unable to escape. Each time I looked into his eyes, all I saw was love and trust. I knew I'd been broken, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth about Carter, and my silence, which became heavier by the day. I could no longer look him in the eye without feeling the weight of my deception. I carried my secret like a stone in my chest, heavy and suffocating. The smile that had once come so easily now felt like a mask, hiding the deep sense of shame and fear that had taken root inside me. In the evenings, when Carter was at work or out with friends, I found myself alone with Christopher and Daniel. The house that had once felt like a sanctuary now felt like a prison. Every time I saw it, I cried. I pushed, I fought. But it was like trying to stop a tidal wave with a pebble. The more I fought, the more determined they became. It was as if my resistance only fueled their desire, making them bolder and more daring. The moments I once hoped would pass never did. Instead, they turned into habits. And I, who would once prided myself on my strength, had become weak emotionally. Mentally and physically, my mind screamed at me to stop, to get out, to run. But my body no longer obeyed. The struggle became less about what was happening, and more about my own internal conflict. I felt like a prisoner in my own body, as though everything I had once believed in had been stripped away. Piece by piece, my own thoughts had become my enemy. Every time I tried to make sense of what was happening, the truth seemed further out of reach, buried beneath layers of guilt and shame. At times I would gaze into the mirror, yearning to find the person I once aspired to be, only to find a stranger, someone shattered and lost. Someone who would let everything F out of your way. My reflection stared back at me with empty eyes, hollow and distant, as though I had ceased to exist long ago. I no longer recognized myself, and I didn't know who to turn to. There was no one who could understand the darkness I had fallen into. How could I explain to anyone what was happening? How could I tell Carter, the man I adored, whose son's flesh and blood had shattered me in ways I could never mend? How could I tell him that I had become their slave, a puppet subject to their every whim? I could not even tell myself what it was happening, let alone anyone else. Shame was suffocating. And every time I thought about confessing, a voice inside me told me that it would be the end of everything. Carter would never forgive me. Carter would destroy the life we had built together. Only the ruins of my own mistakes would remain. The burden of that potential immobilized me, rendering any action unfeasible. Yet there were instances when the guilt became unbearable. In solitude I would weep, my tears saturating contentment with Carter, while my soul disintegrated within. Each night I lay awake next to him, transfixed on the ceiling, expecting the embrace of sleep, only to be haunted by nightmares of the tragedies I had allowed to happen. Christopher and Joseph continuously chased me in my nightmares. Their gaze is locked on me. Their voice is ringing in my brain. I had no way out despite my best attempts. They remained within me and had no way out. I made an effort. I sought solace in my work and minor distractions, attempting to divert my attention away from the horror I was experiencing. But nothing worked. Nothing could obscure the reality that I was living a lie. My life, my marriage, and everything I had believed to be true were all false. I allowed it to happen. I had given in to exploitation. And now there was no way out. I tried to reason my thoughts. I fooled myself that I had no choice and was powerless. But I realized the truth. I had allowed it to happen. I had demonstrated weakness. And now I must face the consequences of my own actions. How could I approach Carter, and in what manner? How could I tell him the inconceivable? How could I disclose that I had deceived him in the worst way? I struggled with the idea of telling him the truth. An inside voice warned me that it was too late. Divulging my secret would result in unpleasant consequences. No forgiveness, no redemption. Only anguish and devastation. At the prospect, losing him and forfeiting everything was unbearable, compelling me to maintain my silence. But I recognized that I could not harbor this secret indefinitely. Its burden was suffocating. I understood that I had to make a choice and confront the truth, regardless of its difficulty. But I was unsure whether I was confronting the reality of my actions, or the essence of my transformation. What I did comprehend was, should I share all facts with Carter? Should I confess and confront the implications? Or should I keep silent and try to live with this burden? I hope that time will heal. If you've read this far, please abstain from passing judgment. I'm looking for fair relief. I can't take this any longer. Tranquility, wait alone. I need comfort that I am not the only one who has experienced such severe feelings of bewilderment, despair and captivity through my tale. I have understood that silence just exacerbates suffering. It breeds more secrets, falsehoods, and anguish. See now that I should have stated my worries sooner. I should have tackled the truth from the beginning, regardless of how painful it is. But it is never too late to make things right. I must muster the strength to proceed, and I will. Regardless of the outcome or consequences, I will find a way to free myself from this darkness. I shall regain my dignity and tranquility. Thank you for your attention. Please share your thoughts and expressions. They may help me find an exit from my confessional narrative. That ends here if you find the story thought-provoking. If you find this information interesting, please support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts and ideas. They are extremely important to us. Please feel free to leave your thoughts below. Your contributions enable us to continue presenting further story, facts, and true experiences. Thank you and goodbye. We'll see you in the next video.